Hey there, it's Stephanie Shea, Chief Astrologer for janspiller.com, here with Val D'Ambrosio. Again, we are up to episode 4 of our Coaching Through the Astrological Forecast series. This has been so much fun. Every month I look forward to pulling the new theme and really digging into it on more of a psychological level and getting Val's insights on that. So what we're coming up on is Aquarius season. It starts on January the 20th, and I have been doing a study on Aquarius in my life because that's my North Node. So I'm always trying to learn from Aquarius people because I don't have any other Aquarius in my chart. And some of my favorite Aquarian themes are definitely friendship, community, humanitarianism. You hear those three all the time. I also really appreciate the rebellion when it's done in a positive way, because we're not here to just always do what we're told if it doesn't make sense. The innovative, inventive qualities of the Aquarian mind, being willing to try new things, networking, and having an innate sense of fairness. Those are all really positive expressions of Aquarius. And we're going to be in some very Aquarian astrology because Mercury is retrograde in Aquarius. The day we are recording this, bravely, we are doing it the day that Mercury has stationed retrograde, January 14th. This video will be up in the next few days, and by the time you watch it, we will be in that cycle. The entire Mercury retrograde is January 14th to February 3rd, but we don't clear the shadow until February 24th. And the Aquarian piece of this is at the beginning. This goes retrograde from 10 degrees Aquarius back to 24 Capricorn. And that's going to happen between January 14th and 24th, a big chunk of this retrograde. This is going to be when we pull inward to reevaluate our friendships, especially relationships with people outside our immediate sphere as well. I think groups, co-workers, organizations that you're part of. And as you're reviewing who you've been associating with, think, do I feel energized by them? Are we in alignment with our values? Do we support each other's mutual growth and support? And as well, you may be revisiting dreams for the future because Aquarian is a very future-minded sign. Now, the new moon is February 2nd, and that is 12 degrees Aquarius. So it's still a powerful time for intention setting, but just know to be patient because things aren't going to unfold in rapid fire because we're just coming out of that Mercury retrograde. And you can definitely use the time between now and the new moon to do some research about some new ideas you have brewing. Now, just stay slow through the end of the month. We're still under Venus retrograde too. We talked a lot about that in the Capricorn episode, if you missed that one. And of course, I have to touch on some of the more out of balance Aquarian traits. All signs have them. Nobody is immune from it. You know, we have our highest expression when we're having a great day. We're in the flow. We've had all our sleep. But then there's those days where we just feel stressed and compromised. For Aquarians here, or strong Aquarius in your chart, here's some things that can surface when you're out of balance. I would say that beautiful rebellious piece can get a little bit out of hand. Rebelling for the sake of rebelling, just to be a rebel and to do things differently and not do what you're told, but it's actually not serving a very good purpose. It's the rebel without a cause syndrome. And this really needs to get turned around and channeled towards worthy causes because Aquarians can be so powerful at this. I think of Aquarius as the sign of science and logic, which is great to get objective opinions, but when it comes to emotional issues, they may start to get avoidant and detached. And I think of Spock on Star Trek. That is not logical. And really, they're here to learn to compromise with others and learn about emotions. Now, I think Aquarians actually can yield to peer pressure sometimes. You think, well, if they're so rebellious, but I think our Aquarian people out here would agree there's a strong sense of belonging. And we're gonna dig into that a little bit with Coach Val over here. And not running away from confrontation, being your genuine self. And that really requires you to show up and think about all the different types of friendships you could have with people, not an all or nothing mentality, because Aquarius is a fixed sign. And so I think sometimes they think, well, I'm either going to be best friends with this person or I'm just not even going to deal. And that's not really, there's all these spectrums in between. And when Aquarius is in the flow, they're such good networkers. It's actually really good for them to have a network. And so, yeah, I'm actually really curious, Val, to talk to you about some of these pieces. Can we start with the rebellion?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you had a client, for example, that was kind of a champion for some causes, maybe using rebellion well in certain arenas, but it was leaking over into their personal life, and they thought, why aren't my relationships going so well? Like, I know that I'm right. And how would you help an overly rebellious Aquarian type?
As far as the around friendships, tell me a little bit more about what you.
Yeah, well, maybe with if what it is that they're taking a stand on, So if they keep raising issues in the workplace, for example, at a certain point, their boss may say, "You got to pick your battles, buddy." Like you've been raising issues constantly. This type of thing, maybe, yeah, if there's sort of a process they can go through before making everything into a rebellious battle.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And I think the reason why is that the example is awesome, right? So if it's you're taking a stand for something, right, and it's a heartfelt thing, or even maybe you're attached to the principle of it or whatever, or being a right way. I'm not sure what somebody's going through, but I think that there can be an internal conflict in the sense of that they want to take a stand for it, but also there's a lot that's going to come with in taking a stand for it, and that could wreak havoc in different areas of their lives and all of a sudden create a lot of tension. And so sometimes asking the question, a great tool that I use is asking the question, is it good for me? Is it good for the other person? And is it good for the greater good? Because I think sometimes in those moments we're doing things like it might be, yeah, it's really good for me, but if I really get honest with myself, it's not really good for anyone else but me. Or if we get sometimes really honest ourselves being so rebellious, maybe it's like, I don't know, being I don't know, I can't think of anything, but asking the question, like, is this really good for me? And if I'm honest with myself, it's actually probably not really good for me, even though I want to say I did it, or I want to do it because I want to prove that I can do it, or because I can, or whatever. It's really checking in. And so I think sometimes asking those greater questions, and when you get to the point of from a really grounded state and a really centered place, it is good for me, and it is good for other people, and it will contribute to the greater good. I feel like that right there is where an Aquarian can get massively in balance and really shine.
That sounds good. Yeah, when you were talking, I was thinking like maybe for activists, like younger activists, they may want to consider, would this be worth going to jail for? And sometimes it's such a passionate cause that all those boxes would be yes. But there could be other things where they think, actually, I kind of want to stay out of jail. Maybe this isn't the one to do that on. Is it something like that?
Yeah, 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 and yeah, even like somebody, let's bring drugs into it, right? Just because I can and I will and whatever, and maybe it's like some kind of form of psychedelic where they're going to go off and do something crazy. I don't know, and it's just really being really honest with herself in the sense of, is that really good for me, or do I want to just rebel because I can rebel, right?
Yeah, yeah, these are good things because I love the spirit. I think it would not be a good world if everybody just fell in line and did everything that they were told to and didn't question anything. But Aquarians, yeah, I think their role can be showing a good example
Yeah.
of positive rebellion. Now, for the friendship piece, this is also quite interesting to me, especially I've got my Aquarius North Node in the 11th house, which is the Aquarian friendship themed house. And I think about this issue a lot. You know, oh, should all the people I encounter then become my friends? Like I get, yeah, I love to make friends. And I think thinking about the expectations every time you kind of encounter somebody and maybe they want to call you up and hang out, and how to navigate that, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I was raised by an Aquarian, and also my sister's an Aquarian, so I think I picked up a lot of Aquarian traits. But also, aspects of my mother that I love is that she could talk to anyone and she could make anyone feel just so special, like, the clerk at the store, and get to know so much about them in a short amount of time. And we were talking about that, and your mom's the same way, being an
Yeah.
Aquarian. I think that's such a beautiful thing that I chose to pick up because I just saw how fun it would make it for the other person. And I think where it personally for me, it got a little confusing is like I would try to like be the Julie McCoy of the group, getting everyone together. And even though they didn't really get along, and I would put so much pressure on myself. And I essentially was trying to be everyone's best friend, and trying to be that kind of community leader.
Mm.
But there was an internal conflict there too, because it's not necessarily, I didn't want to be everybody. Like I didn't have the energy for it. It didn't really feel good. And I'm quality over quantity. And so I learned this tool, and it really helped me. And it was essentially, so we have 2-minute friends, 2-hour friends, and 2-day friends. And Stephanie, I can't tell you, this really, really helped me to like let go of the internal obligation that I was feeling, or the expectation, like that I need to get along and I need to take care of whatever it was, right? But so 2-minute friends are the people that you don't really have anything in common with, but you see their humanness and you honor them and you respect them. Like you just kind of like, hey, how you doing? Good to see you, and you don't really say more than that. 2-hour friends are the people that there's a little bit more in common, yet maybe your core values aren't aligned, and there's not like a depth to there that really lights you up and inspires you as an individual. But but there's maybe you have one common bond, like you like to go mountain biking together or something like that, or go to art shows together, but you don't have all these other areas of your life. And so with that person, at being a 2-hour friend, maybe you meet them for tea every 5 months or something like that. Like there's not, a big pressure around it. And then 2-day friends are the people that you could go and spend a week with and just have so much fun. You don't want to leave their side. It's just so amazing. And the way that I look at those people is that they're probably like 2, maybe 3 people. And again, equality over quantity. And so when I did that, it was definitely this freedom and this permission to do friendship differently. And it's okay.
I like that. And I like that you pointed out freedom, because that is a huge Aquarian theme, and that might help certain out of balance Aquarians set themselves free if they were feeling any type of obligation, or feeling somehow it had to be all or nothing. Like, don't even talk to that person because Aquarians, it's fixed energy, and sometimes it's harder to see all that in the middle. And that really is a beautiful way to break it down and kind of realize you can have all kinds of friends. And one of the things that Aquarians are so good at is building networks. Like I think about, oh yeah, people put on, social media, hey, does anyone know a good plumber in this town? And probably it's Aquarian types that are like, oh, I totally do. Like they just want to help hook up the right resources and the right people with the right situations, and they're actually kind of masterful at it. So that is a good reason for them to go out and not worry about meeting a lot of different people. They don't have to become the 2-day variety of friends with everybody. And definitely, I would think not expecting everybody in their friend circle to get along, because they're probably going to attract a very eclectic bunch of people into their lives.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, I think, a big thing, like what you just said, like the pressure that, to be the one that gets everybody that everyone's getting along like at the party. But again, it's exhausting because if it's not authentically what you're into, and it's like really it's just the commute, getting people together. But at that point, giving ourselves permission in the sense of going, you know what, let them do their thing. Like I don't have to now monitor or go over whatever, because that's draining oftentimes for certain people. And from the Aquarian freedom kind of perspective, in the sense of just wanting to kind of be fluid and open and whatever, in that, not feeling like they have to be obligated to have a role when they're there or make sure everyone gets along, that would be an internal conflict and would waste their energy. And so I'm all about conserving energy. And so when we discover the ways that conserve our energy, our own personal energy, not in the way that we can get so stuck and fixed in it, in the sense of where we're making other people wrong, but in the sense of where it's almost like, okay, I've done my part. Not I've done my part. Now you guys, but I've done my part. Like I don't have to now, cross the T's, dot the I's, make sure everyone's getting along. So it's that, it's releasing that expectations of it's going to be something, it's going to go somewhere, like letting kind of life happen at that moment.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and I think that would feel very freeing to people. And so yeah, I just have like one more Aquarian type question for you, because I think that some Aquarians get a bad rap of not being compassionate, and I know, like my mother was Aquarius. It's like they have that capacity actually quite a bit, but I think there is sort of a protective bubble that they want to go in, especially within their personal lives sometimes. And so you could see them enact compassion out in the public with almost strangers or people they work with, and then if it's a very deeply personal issue, it may be more difficult. So if you had a client, for example, who's struggling in this area of personal relationships, not being able to break their bubble maybe, and to acknowledge other people close to them who might be hurting because they don't understand it, for example.
Yeah.
What would be some tips?
I mean, I think you honestly just said it. Like, I think that the big piece around that, like I think about my mother again, like going back to that example of the grocery store, getting so connected and feeling like she knows this person and she wants to go now bring her soup. It's really, really lovely and sweet, right? But then when I share my feelings or something that's happening with me or anything like that, it's just like there's a lack of compassion. There's just a detachment. There's a dismissiveness around it. It's like, and I would often feel like, like it was very confusing. It was very confusing. It's like, I don't understand. Why do you pour so much love and attention on that person that's a stranger? But to me, it's like, I got nothing. It's like, throw me a bone here, And so I think like, again, I think you just really said it, is that taking that moment to just really, acknowledge that person. You don't have to understand it. And I think that's the big freedom piece that could be available in that moment for the Aquarian, or if you have those traits, in the sense of just freeing themselves, like them listening and them just being there and holding presence doesn't mean that they're obligated to do anything about it. Sometimes somebody's presence and just holding space, or listening, or whatever you want to call it. I say holding space, but not everybody says that. It's like, it's just this beautiful moment for somebody to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel whatever. And I think it's that letting go of, I don't know what's happening internally that they need to figure it out on their own. I do, or it's like, I'm not responsible for that, or but whatever that thing is to just kind of lay that to the side for a moment and understand that your point of view or your way of doing things, that kind of fixed energy, it's not necessarily what's needed in that moment. And it doesn't mean you have to now bend and do something that they would do, but simply just taking a moment to offer them your presence, acknowledge them, and know that you don't have to understand it. You really don't. And I think that's the biggest permission is not having to understand it.
That makes a lot of sense, because again, Aquarius energy runs a lot on logic, and there's certain things that it just doesn't compute, and that's okay. And actually it would be really good for them to have somebody just compassionately listen to them and not they if they had any hangups that, oh, this person's gonna think this is ridiculous if I say this, like, good, then you should totally probably say it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that these are all some really good tips because, yeah, I think that avoidant piece, it can be a complaint sometimes that in relationships, in Jan's book, Cosmic Love, for example, somebody who's got the Aquarius South Node, that's something sometimes that their partners complain, like this person is avoiding these conflicts that involve emotions that we have to talk about.
Yeah, 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 totally. And the other thing about this is, when you said at the beginning, you were like, talking about the out of balance. The way that I look at that is that, we're here in this human life to experience the full range of the human experience, the full range. And so it doesn't mean we're here to always play this bubbly, perfect, aligned, you know, you know, being. We're not. And it's actually sometimes in these places where we're out of balance, or our shadow, or there's that internal kind of angst or anything like that, that's the potency of growth. That's the contrast. That's where, oftentimes, if we really allow it to be, and we reveal those aspects of ourselves, and we choose to instead learn new ways of being, we can go so much deeper into this is my own opinion, but our personal, we can go so much deeper into our own, essence, and discover aspects about ourselves that maybe have been dormant, or maybe we just weren't learned, or muscles we haven't used in a long time, and we get to reveal them. And now we are even more, I think, of like colors. I think we're more colorful. Like, life is a little bit more colorful because now we're operating with a little bit more than just what we came in here, what we know, and da 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 da. So I think that these out of balance things, it's really useful to the perspective that we're looking at it. Just for those of you that are listening, it's like, if you hear whatever you hear Stephanie speak of the out of balance, we don't have to run from it. It's actually, in my opinion, that beautiful freedom, that permission slip to instead lean into it and start discovering that, how might I cultivate these aspects of me that will support me in being a greater human being, and therefore I can contribute on a more grander scale and level in the world, in the community.
Awesome. That's totally true. And well, you were saying that, it also reminded me of kind of finding that sense of belonging, because what you just described, that emotional connection, that being more kind of honest about, yeah, everybody's got this stuff. Nobody's feeling perfect all the time. That can be connection where, if, some of the Aquarian desire to fit in, even though they are so unique, that's not at conflict necessarily. It's being fitting in because you are so unique and willing to share all the ways you are unique, right? Yeah, that was so good. I
Good.
hope that, yeah, I'll be eager to hear what some Aquarian people think about this video. Be sure and leave some comments. We got some really good feedback the past few episodes, and this is just, it's been such an eye-opening way to approach astrology for me. So I'm grateful that we are doing it together.
Me too. And I love it. Like, I've gotten a few emails just within the past few days, like, when's the next video? And I think that's so radical, because that means that it is supporting people. And so, again, you guys, if there's things that you want to hear, or questions you want us to cover, especially if you know that what's coming next is your sign, or one of your signs, or someone in your life, bring it to our attention, because we definitely want to support you in navigating your life with greater ease.
Yes, for sure. Same here. You can always message me, and I think we have covered good territory here today. I feel great about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Next up will be Pisces season coming at you later in February. Till then, be safe and be well.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.